Good morning. Nice to see you guys. Let's. So we're gonna have a ball, a blanket, and a wall handy. I think we'll start seated. So finding your way into a comfy seat where you can be fully at ease. Happy to see so many of you guys this morning. Always nice. When we can recharge. So just settling in to a seat where your body feels supportive, supported, and supportive. And then finding your way into a nice rhythmic flow of breath. Nice and easy, nice and delicate. Smoothing out those corners, both the inhales and the exhales, and the transitions between the two. Let's just give ourselves 90 more seconds just to center, maybe regroup or group. Remember to allow yourself the ability to adjust and shift and find more ease in the shape. When it feels appropriate, we'll let the eyes blink open if they're closed. Take our palms down for a moment so we get a little bit of that internal rotation of the shoulders, and then broaden that shoulder capacity out. So a little scapular retraction, and we'll just shake our head no, or exaggerated version of no here. Moving the cervical spine. And then allow, as you take your next few rotations, for the chin to duck down and then rotate so that there's a dip and a flexion of the cervical spine as we move. And then let's bring the head back to neutral, and we'll start that no version once again. Maybe you have a little bit more space or a little bit more awareness now. And then we're going to add an arc so that the chin goes up and over as we move here. You can use that bottom jaw to kind of exaggerate the shape if that feels good for this anterior throat neck musculature. Maybe one more time in each direction. We'll come back to neutral. Just let our head kind of settle here, let the body settle here. Let's transition to hands and knees tabletop for a moment. So set your base position, set the strength of the shape. Even though we're in a recharge class, we're establishing that foundational neutral spine element. Press the tops of the feet down into the mat. So a little bit more engagement than you might normally think about there. And then with that idea of tops of the feet pressing down, let's sink our way back into child's pose. The top of the foot pressure may limit or restrict your capacity to go back. It may also change the way that the shape feels in the lumbar or potentially in that anterior tibialis musculature. You also may have some of the plantar fascial tissue, that arch tissue responding and speaking to you. And then let's pull our way forward into tabletop. As you come into the tabletop, tuck the chin, round the back, tuck the tailbone, press down into those handprints, finger mounts, fingerprints, and really try to accentuate across the shoulder girdle as you articulate the spine into flexion. And then let's come back to neutral, repress on the tops of the feet and sink back into your version of child's pose. See if the spine can respond differently, or you can find new depth in the shape with the spine. And then we'll pull ourselves forward to tabletop, create that neutrality, and then drop the belly, lift the tailbone, lift the chin into our extension articulation. Stay broad across the shoulders. Keep that hand energy active. So we're not bending into the elbows, but really maintaining our stability and allowing the middle of the spine to receive. And then we'll come back to neutral and sink back into a relaxed child's pose. No need to pressurize the tops of the feet here. Looking to get back into the shape and allow the body to melt around the propping that is our legs. And we'll give ourselves just 60 seconds to settle in. Fingertips grip into the mat in front of you. We'll pull ourselves forward to tabletop and extend our legs out in front of us. You may or may not want your blanket or towel here. We're headed to a seated forward fold. So if you like having some prop support underneath the knees, this would be an opportunity to use that blanket. But we're just going to find a staff-ish, and then just head right forward, kind of playing more intently on that hip crease pressure, that anterior hip crease pressure that we worked in our child's pose, and trying to use that to find depth in the fold. So think about retracting the anterior hip crease like you're pulling back the middle of the shape instead of so much going forward into the fold. Think about each exhale as an opportunity to find More and more space, more and more release, and more depth in this shape. Last 10 seconds here. Maybe it's your last cycle of breath. Can you find any more room, space, release before we walk ourselves back up into a seat in this staff shape? Let's take our blanket either in a hot dog fold or a hot dog fold into a block fold. We're going to take that to support a lateral edge of our body. So left knee is going to bend and that's going to fall out wide. So we have an elevated half butterfly shape with that extended right leg. Goal here is to put even more slack in this right side system. So posterior chain should have some good room as we follow that down into this nice asymmetrical fold. If you're feeling like you can use more slack, you can bend that right knee. You can also tuck that prop even deeper underneath the hip. And if you feel like you have too much space or you can expand deeper, you can unwind and you can even disregard the prop completely. But try to find a really nice, deep fold to settle into here. We'll give ourselves about 40 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate, we'll walk ourselves back into this asymmetrical version of staff, make that symmetrical, take our prop over to the second side, bend the right knee, and let that fall out wide. Again, finding an appropriate place to kind of play from initially, and then finding your way into the fold, thinking about how you can utilize the prop to create more posterior chain slack so that you can get deeper into this shape. Give ourselves 40 more seconds here on this second side. And as it feels appropriate for you, we'll bring ourselves back into a symmetrical version of staff by extending that right leg. Let's take our blanket or towel, and from a shelf fold, make that, I have to actually undo that once. So we end up with like towel length, and we'll fold that hot dog style and then hot dog style again. So we end up with a relatively flat, elongated rectangle. And that's gonna head straight behind us so that we can lower our spine down onto that. And we'll just lower ourselves back. Goal here is to have the low back bend, which is small, but it's definitely there, be really flat and neutral. And then the entirety of the remaining spine, so the sacrum is anchored, the entire remaining piece of the spine is just at ease here. And then let's just let go into that space. Relaxing the shoulders. Relaxing the hips. Thinking about the space between the shoulders and the hips elongating into relaxation. Relaxing your breath. Feeling the edges of the body soften as they melt down towards your mat. Inhale and bend both knees. And then let the knees fall to one side or the other, whatever side you're feeling most drawn towards. And we'll pull that prop out from underneath us. And we'll set that to the side for the moment. And let's engage with our ball. And then we'll just come right back onto our spine. Extend your left leg, extend both of your legs down the mat, your left legs pluralized. And then we'll walk both feet over towards the right corner of the mat. So we end up at a little angle there. We're then going to just take the head and tilt the right ear down towards the right shoulder. So you get a little bit of lateral edge pull. And then with the ball in the left hand, start to massage this lateral edge musculature. Now we have lots of tissue we can play with, right? A little bit dependent upon our shoulder flexibility if we can get into the trap lat musculature. But we can play with this intercostal rib musculature. We can work down into the obliques. We can work down towards that hip flexor, potentially, depending on how much pressure you want to apply and how deep you can get into the psoas musculature. But putting a little tension on the lateral chain by arcing the body this way and then just massaging that out with our ball. And so the latitude of play is wide so that you can really explore what feels the most beneficial. And if that means the ball's not beneficial, just set that to the side and use a little lateral chain expansion passively or statically. Give ourselves about 30 more seconds here on this first side. And then let's maintain your positioning, release the ball, take the right arm straight up over its kind of shoulder joint that may kind of bump in with the forehead. Try to tuck the arm underneath and then let the left arm meet the right arm where it is. With the right hand, pull the left arm straight up and overhead, like you're pushing your right arm away, and just feel if the left side or right side gets the more pull. Neither side is wrong, just kind of depends on how our body is responding. And then we'll relax. Head comes back to neutral. Feet come back to neutral. Receive the work you've done. Let the body rebalance itself. Arms can be a cactus or T or down by your side. Try to think about the shoulder and hip girdles as leveling themselves out. And then we'll re-engage with that ball, being the right hand this time. We'll walk the feet over towards the left corner of our mat and then tilt our left ear down towards our left shoulder. And as we take that tension into that lateral side, lateral edge, start to play with massaging some of this tissue, noting that there may be very different needs on this second side. You may find that the first side, it was all intercostal, and now the obliques need more attention. And that really is kind of how we're likely to be, based upon the fact that if the upper half of the right side is compressed,
then the lower half of the left side is going to need to compensate, right? And opposite. So as our body responds to our own challenges, it will adapt and compensate. And so here we just want to find what has been compensating and release the burden that it may have taken on for us. Nice thing to do to release the body's burden. We'll give ourselves about 30 more seconds here on the second side. And when it feels appropriate for you, we can release the ball. Bring that, release the ball. Take the left arm and extend it straight up. And then take that right hand to the left wrist, pushing with that left arm, that left wrist away, straight overhead towards the wall behind you, not towards the ceiling. We get a little bit of expansiveness. And again, we can feel where that manifests in the body. And then we can relax back to neutral with the body. Soften. Receive what you've just done. And just breathe into this space. Last 20 seconds here. Just feeling what you've created. And then when it feels appropriate for you, let's bend both knees and re-engage our blanket. A blanket should be set up pretty ideally for our next piece. We're just going to wrap that over the top of the ankles, tuck it underneath the lateral edge, and let the knees fall out wide. Now, you may notice that this is less elevation than the way we'd normally use this prop, right? So normally we have a roll here, and we're talking a couple inches, but it can feel pretty different. If this doesn't feel like enough support, you have a couple options, right? You can unroll the blanket or unfold the blanket and roll it so that it does. You can also place those hands in fists and kind of tuck them underneath the thighs to offer a little more support. We can breathe and relax in and see if the body is able to open up this medial line a little bit more than normal. All of those are very viable options. Choose the one that you feel most drawn towards. So there's this pretty remote society, little village, like they always are. This particular village in the middle of a forest, like they always are, but is built up on a hill. It's built up on a hill because in the valley below it, there's relatively frequent flooding. And there's a river that runs through. Because of this, the village has developed some unique things. One is a huge water tower in the middle of the village that is communal. And so every year, there has become a traditional contest. And this contest is about creating a vessel that can transport water from the river to the water tower the most effectively. And over the course of time, people have tried different traditional and non-traditional water vessels to win this contest. You basically fill up kind of a smaller version of the water tower in an individual race. And over the years, the traditional jug has become the tried, true, and consistent winning water vessel. You think of it as a milk jug, gallon jug, something with some volume at the bottom and then a smaller opening at the top. And year after year, this has been the tool that has won this contest. The contest rules are relatively simple. You can show up with any type of water vessel, but it is the only tool you can use. About 120 more seconds here, just settling in. So people make tiny little refinements. Some of the more recent refinements are using collapsible bases of the water vessel so that they can pressurize the water to come out, because pouring from a traditional jug can be quite slow. And that little advancement has made filling the community water tower a much quicker process. But everything that's gone kind of in different directions has always failed. Specifically, big open bowl style vessels, because the distance at the base of the valley, it's not only relatively vast, but it's also very rocky and uneven. So when people try to use bowl vessels, although they can pour very quickly, they tend to spill most of their water before they even get to the hill. The hill climb itself, relatively smooth, relatively short, But if you have no water before you get there, it doesn't much matter. When it feels appropriate for you, let's bring our knees back to neutral. You can take that blanket and set it to the side. And then let's just start to dynamically sway the hips. Remembering to allow yourself the freedom to explore what your body needs and would benefit from as you dynamically move. Maybe one more time in each direction. And then eventually we'll meet with the knees neutral, kneecaps pointing towards the ceiling. Think about that anterior hip crease retraction that we started class with in the forward fold. And we're going to use that again as our reference point as we pull the thighs towards the torso. But thighs are coming towards the torso. The anterior hip crease is pushing away from us. Get that full compression capacity. And then we'll release the feet back down to the mat. Let the knees fall over to the left side for a little static twist. And so everyone is pretty shocked when this young woman shows up with this oval metal bowl for this contest. And the other competitors kind of coming over and looking at this vessel and laughing at her. And, you know, using the same old logic from years past of, well, you'll be able to gather water quickly. You'd be able to pour water quickly if you had any. But this is a losing strategy. And she just smiles politely. The bowl itself is relatively specialized. She's found this very sturdy metal alloy that she's crafted herself. And the bowl is maybe, 10 inches, a 10-inch oval with relatively firm but sharp edges. Sharp may be the wrong word, but thin edges. And so as the contest begins, everyone rushes down to the river and they're all filling their water vessels and then rushing back up the hill. And everyone kind of loses sight of this woman because she goes down and nobody sees her come back up. And she, as people start to look around for where she might be, they see her pulling rocks away from the riverbed. And she's moving these rocks kind of to create a path. Pulling rocks out of the way, pulling rocks out of the way. And that's all she's doing. which people find quite odd and ineffective. Last 50 seconds here on this first side. And when it feels appropriate for you, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. Resettle, rebalance. Think about that anterior hip crease space as you're balancing the hip girdle, and then retract that hip crease as you pull the thighs in towards the torso. Let your feet come back down to the mat. The knees will fall over to the second side, the right side. And so after a while, she's cleared kind of this border of a path towards the hill. And people are just absolutely baffled as to what she might be doing. And then with her little metal bowl, she starts to carve into the soft soil she's revealed below the rocks. She starts at the river edge and she works her way towards the hill. And of course, the water, or some water, follows down this little path she's carved. Meanwhile, all the other competitors are laboring away, and their little mini water towers are filling up slowly as they pour from their jugs. Eventually, she gets to the hill and she digs a little small, shallow pool. And from there, she fills her bowl of water and she walks back up the hill and pours it in. And as she pours her water into her little water tower, it takes about 2.5 seconds, where the other competitors are lucky if they can get theirs done in a minute. And so she starts to catch up. And as her little water tower comes just about even with the next fastest competitor, screams of foul play start to spread through the community. They say, she's changed the path of the river. This isn't fair. And the judges say, well, you're welcome to use her water spout. And so the other competitors try to fill their water vessels in her little shallow pool. But they have a jug that's restricted by air pressure, and it needs to change the depth in order to fill. Her little pool's just too shallow to be useful for them. And so she continues from this shallow pool, filling her bowl or open top bowl, pouring this huge volume at once while they pour through these little spouts. Last 50 seconds here on the second side. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. Let the body soften, balance. Think about this anterior hip crease pushing away from you as you pull the thighs in towards the torso. One last time. Really think about hollowing out that hip crease. And then relax the feet back down to the mat. A little last dynamic sway. Just finding any last little pieces of tissue that we can work out. Give yourself just 20 more seconds here. And then eventually, when it feels appropriate for you, no rush to make it true, we'll bring the knees back to neutral. And with the knees at neutral, make a decision. Do you want to spend Shavasana with the legs up the wall? If you do, we'll reposition ourselves so that's possible. Or would you rather be in a more traditional shape? And more than that, what would benefit you maximally? So, do we want to be with some inversion energy, or would we rather be horizontal and at ease? And we'll just find our way into the shape where we will maximally benefit from our Shavasana this morning. And we'll settle into that wholly and deeply. And we'll just allow our body to be completely at ease here.
And so this new way of filling this water vessel in this contest blows everyone else away and upends years and years of precedent. And this changes this village. Filling the water tower becomes exponentially quicker than it ever has been before. And the way in which water vessels are used becomes different. We'll start to move our fingers and our toes, our wrists, our ankles, elbows, knees, shoulders and hips, neck and head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, the entirety of the body will move, and we'll utilize that movement to transition into a seat. In this seated space, spine gets tall, breath gets fluid, eyes close. Make sure you elevate the torso and take that length that we've created with you. And we'll inhale our hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you observe where having a more flexible mind might be a betterment to your world, your house, your society? And see how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this morning's practice and for being you. Namaste. Happy Sunday, guys. Appreciate the heck out of you. I'll be back tomorrow night if you want to move, and we'll do this again next Sunday. Have a beautiful day or week, and I'll see you soon. Love the heck out of you. Mwah.